Thank you, superhero Jen, who has to make sometimes hard announcements. Does anyone here, did anyone know Sarah? Yeah. Anyone else? Familiar? And you said that she was a force. Any other couple words? Like just kind of, I can repeat it too. Okay. Yeah.
Flowing golden hair.
Flowing golden hair.
Often was wearing kind of like an international outfit.
International
Yeah,
outfit.
she was a great chiropractor.
A great chiropractor. Cool. And it sounds like really embedded in our community and in our sangha.
Yeah, she was very close with Marcia and John Travis.
Close with Marcia.
So a bunch of
Yeah.
us know those people.
Yeah. Thank you, Jen. Yeah, I was feeling both when you said that. It's like we live these whole lives and then we're like an announcement at a meditation night. It's just so odd, isn't it? It's just so odd. And to recognize, of course, those few words of naming her passing is acknowledging a whole life. Sarah had a whole life, and it sounds like was really in our web and still is, even in the unseen way. Yeah, I wonder, sometimes I do this at the beginning of sangha, just getting an opportunity to see if anyone else in the room has had someone pass in the last week, the last month, even the last year. You're allowed. Yeah, Jen's mom, Joy, she died in the last few months, right? Yeah. Yeah.
My friend Susie Shuneman.
Susie.
Mom, grandma, an amazing children's musician.
Susie, mom, grandma, an amazing children's musician. Sounds like a light too. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And today, one of my dear friends, Diane, she put her dear beloved cat Jasper to sleep, and I know she's feeling and in her own transition around that. For those of us that have animals, we know there are babies. So just taking a moment to feel that. I don't want to move too fast. You know, sometimes we're moving fast with grief, with acknowledgement of death. Just feeling what happens in your heart, in your body, in your mind. And so this gets to be part of our night. It doesn't have to be separate from sangha. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you're experiencing, whoever you're with, whatever you're with. I'm also smiling because it sounds like we have new sangha members here tonight and we're immediately talking about death. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I want to just let you all know that in my bike ride over to the center tonight, I forgot my normal glasses. And so I can see you all pretty much. But if you're like making faces or trying to make eye contact, it's not going to happen. So just know that. I'm fine with it. Not ideal. Thank you. Thanks. Actually love that. And so we'll start ourselves off with some meditation, and then we'll take a little break, and then we will open to some Dharma wisdom, Dharma reflections. Yeah, and I think we'll start with a little chanting. I'm going to pull up the kind of original chant to the Buddha. Let's see, I know how to do this. We share screen, we do things like that. Yes. And so, whether you've done this chant or not before, you're welcome to join, you're welcome to try it on. We're going to be chanting in the ancient, amazing language of Pali, which is how the Buddhist teachings were recorded, was the language that the Buddhist teachings were recorded in. And for me, and you might feel this way or find your way in this, when Namo means like I bow, I return, that first word, Namo. And for me over time, I've really felt like when I chant this mantra, it's like I'm bowing to the lineage of Buddhism. I'm bowing to the historical Buddha. I'm bowing to the sangha who's carried these teachings. And at this moment in time, especially sitting here as a white Jewish teacher, it feels so important to bow and acknowledge the origins of these teachings. So for me, it's really important. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. And we're also bowing to that which is awake in ourselves. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So taking a moment to transition towards practice. You might see if the body needs to squirm around a little bit to get comfortable enough. And letting yourself orient with your ears, letting yourself receive the soundscape, the sound of the space that we're all sharing right now. Even the Zoomers in some way. And you might notice if eyes want to be open or closed. Seeing what feels right for you in this moment. And you might notice as we start to pull our attention a bit more inwards, you might notice that there's still movement internally. There might be nervous system movement or mind movement, body movement. And none of that has to change. And so while that movement continues or changes, we'll open our awareness up to more that's going on. Include more. So you might notice what your feet are resting against right now, a felt sense. Maybe your feet are folded underneath your body or touching the floor. Letting that come into your awareness, the feet making contact. You might even see if there's a felt experience of fabric, carpet, skin, air around your feet. And you might include also the shape of your legs, how they ended up for your practice position. Maybe they're stretched out long or bent at the knee. You feel that shape. Locating our seat in space, feeling whatever surface the seat is resting on. You might notice if it's soft or hard. The experience of the weight of the body being held up by support. You might even be able to experience or feel or imagine how this body is being supported not just by the cushion or the seat or the bed or the couch you're on, but underneath that, the earth holding us. Sensing or experiencing the spine, the back body, the front body, the uprightness, especially if you're sitting, the uprightness, almost like a blossom, a flower blossom that blossoms from roots, the lift, the integrity of the spine, the dignity. Zooming the aperture out a little bit and feeling in its entirety the body sitting, body sitting, body lying down, whatever posture, body doing it, body in it. You might even feel body breathing. As we deepen here together, an invitation to use that phrase as an anchor of attention, body sitting, body breathing. If you lose track of what we're doing here, see if you can experience again the body sitting here, body breathing here. In these last few minutes of practice, if you want to, you could imagine someone that you would love to offer care, someone that you would love to offer metta or loving kindness. Maybe you imagine them in a smiley, happy moment. Or for those who aren't visualizers, you might be able to sense what it would be like experiencing them next to you or near you. And internally expressing care to them, maybe through words or through a squeeze of the hand or a hug. Ringing the bell. Just noticing how the bell keeps resounding. It's gorgeous. Hard to want to talk over that. So we will take a break for like 5 or 6 minutes, and yeah, we'll keep this space quiet, and outside can be chatty, and the bell will ring, and we'll be back here before we know it. Are we all here? Okay. Is the sound okay too? I felt like I got a little quiet before. Now we're good? Okay. I'm kind of obsessed with how beautiful it is outside these days. Anyone else feeling that way? God, the waters, the sunlight right now is incredible. Let's start with a little poem from the Tao Te Ching. Found myself pawing through this, so I'll follow that impulse. True perfection seems imperfect, yet it is perfectly itself. True fullness seems empty, yet it is fully present. True straightness seems crooked, true wisdom seems foolish, true art seems artless. The master allows things to happen. She shapes events as they come. She steps out of the way and lets the Tao speak for itself. So in our practice tonight, we were, in a way, we were getting to explore shifting our perspective, right? We come in with a certain mind state, with a body doing whatever it's doing. I know I biked in here and was warm and a lot of movement in my system. And when we sit and we get quiet, whatever's happening inside can start to become even louder, even more felt. And sometimes when it's loud, it can feel like the only thing existing. But there's so much more happening that we can open to. I was trying to remember, I feel like there's like a scientific fact of like how much we perceive. Does anyone know that in the room? It's like 2% or something insanely small. But so much is happening that we're not picking up on. And in a way, one big thing we are cultivating as practitioners is awareness, is like opening the aperture. I haven't said that word in so long, it feels so weird in my mouth. When we're opening the aperture, we're bringing in more information, and that can be in a really wide way. It can also be in a really deep and subtle way. So there's this word that you might have heard of in this path called the Dharma. Maybe for some of you it's a new word. I don't know. The Buddha Dharma was one way we call this path. Dharma is the Sanskrit pronunciation, and Dhamma is the Pali. And this word, it is often translated as like nature or law. For me, the way that I relate to it is like an unfolding. It's almost like more of like almost has like a movement for me, the unfolding that's happening. And when we bow, we've done this in times that I've taught, and I'm sure with other teachers, when we bow to the Buddha, that which is knowing, that which is awake, and we bow to the Dhamma, the Dharma, we're bowing, we're awake to, we're aware of that which is unfolding. And that which is unfolding is so vast and endless. There is so much unfolding. way beyond what we're even aware of. What I've started to pick up on is that these wise teachers, these wise masters who become more and more aware, more and more present, seem to be happier, love life more, that it's actually in coming closer to this unfolding that we become more free. That seems to be the plot of this path. And you might have noticed that in your own experience, whether in practice or a moment that you pause with something beautiful outdoors. Moments that we kind of step a little bit further from our habitual orientation to self, our self-centeredness that many of us work with. And we start to make contact, come into relationship with more of what's unfolding. I just had a moment, I think it was Saturday morning maybe, and it had been a long time since I had some hours of a morning without having to get somewhere. So it was kind of luxurious, And when I woke up, I noticed that my mind immediately was moving at a fast pace and wondering what I should be doing, how I should be filling this time, and da 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 da. And there was this aha moment of realizing that story going on, though it was playing at a high volume, was not the only thing unfolding. Right? Simultaneously, I had my cat in my arms and she was snuggling and purring. Simultaneously, there was nature, all the trees and the bushes and the grass that lives outside, the house happening, living. And when I could see that there was more, then what happens? There's more spaciousness and simultaneously somehow more intimacy. Does that ring a bell for some of you? Have you ever had those transition moments? Yeah. There's so much unfolding all the time. And so when we allow ourselves to build this capacity to be with, I called the talk the living Dharma, right? To be with this unfolding, we have this ability to experience more fluidity in our lives, less stickiness, right? Less fighting against life, more possibility. I'm thinking of the Buddha talking about fixed views, that experience of being really fixed, like this emotion or this way I feel about someone or this experience is the only thing and I'm obsessed with it, right? That's kind of the opposite. When we start to realize that's not the only thing happening, that's not the only thing alive, and start to orient towards other things happening, there's that loosening of that fixed view. And that's liberation. That's a moment of liberation, that loosening. So when we were practicing tonight, what we started to do is we were actually shifting our aperture to the foundation of the body. It's the first foundation of mindfulness of the body. I was thinking, I didn't say it during the meditation, but when we were feeling our feet, it's like, how often do you say hello to your feet in a day? Right? But these moments of acknowledging our feet, of acknowledging them working, of opening ourselves up to something that's hopefully going well. Not all the time, feet can also have problems. But shifting our attention, including more in our attention The body is a phenomenal place for some of us. Sometimes the body is not a phenomenal space to put our attention. But we can put our attention on the body and start to shift into what else is happening here, besides what's happening in my mind, besides what's happening in the news. It's like, oh, I have feet, and they're actually against something really soft right now for me, right? So that's what we were working through when we were being with the body. We're shifting our attention, feet. Oh, there's legs here today. There's body. And actually our body's resting on a whole body. So we start to kind of widen the view, right? More happening. I'm thinking about right now how it's like how that view can widen so much, like even just to let yourself take a moment right now and imagine the plant friends that are surrounding this Dharma space or wherever you are, for those in Zoom, the plant friends that are around us. You might even be able to sense if there's like bodies of water nearby. Even to let yourself experience the sangha, all the people that are in this room and the Zoomers that are all over, maybe Nevada County and elsewhere. And just to feel what it's like to open more to what's going on right now. There's this in psychology, it's not even actually just psychology, it's actually an ecological kind of model, and it's called Bronfenbrenner's, that's the person who developed it, ecological model. And it's acknowledging how humans interact with other systems, right? So sometimes we experience ourselves as just this self, this concrete self, this individual. But we're absolutely always in relationship to all these other systems. So even right now, you can feel your body sitting here, right? This sense of self, maybe, this sense of who you are. But just like we did, then we can start to kind of feel the concentric circles moving outwards from there, like the people in the space, our sangha here, the people that are outside of this space, right? The beings that are outside of this space, the beings that are under us, the beings that are above us. Each of us here has our own community, our own unique community. And then we're also existing at a specific time in history that we're interacting with. So this model helps us look a little more relationally what's happening, not just with me, but also around me. And can I orient towards that too? In a way, this is what we're doing. I love, it's such a foundational list. It's called the Foundations of Mindfulness, the first foundation. There's 4 foundations. And it's almost like the Buddha's pointing us to pay attention to different places, different categories in our life, to pay attention to the body. We can pay attention to our thought realm. All places to awaken. We can awaken to our sensations, the way that we're experiencing things, felt sense. And so it's not only that we're widening the aperture either, it's that that aperture can also focus into the more subtle, right? Many of you, I'm sure, have practiced with breath. I have a teacher, Beth Upton, and she would teach students who used breath as their anchor. She would ask them, what allows you to fall in love with the breath? What about the breath is going to keep you interested to stay here? It's not just these wide views, but if I'm sitting with just the breath, what's going to keep me interested? Why is the breath fantastic? What does it feel like? What is it doing? So we're exploring directionally. What is going on? What is unfolding? I have a wish that one day I'll write a book called Wild Intimacy, because this is what I see as the Dhamma path. It's building this intimacy with the aliveness of what's here. And when we feel that it's alive rather than solid, we start to, I really feel like that's where the freedom is. Feeling the aliveness, right? That's where we study anatta. We see that there's no solid sense of self. There's just these processes happening inside of ourselves, outside of ourselves. You might even just noticed for yourself from before you walked in here tonight to now, having sat, being in this space, if you feel a shift in your intimacy with life right now. Do you feel a shift? Maybe, maybe not. It's not necessarily what's happening. So many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the kind of like the three characteristics of life that were taught by the Buddha: dukkha, anatta, anicca. Dukkha is this unsatisfactoriness that's kind of embedded in life. Anicca is change or impermanence. And anatta is this not self. And I'm thinking about this this phrase that I've used often when I'm practicing equanimity in my life, and the phrase is, this is how it is right now. This is how it is right now. Such a holy phrase. It can be such an awakening phrase. Right? In a moment of unsatisfactoriness in our lives, something really going south. Right? You probably know it. I know it in myself, of the way I might like kind of start to shape around it, feeling like it's the only thing existing. It can be just a thought that I had or a view. We start to shape around it. But actually, even the dukkha is part of this unfolding. It's part of the Dharma. It's unfolding. It's shifting, it's changing. And so when we bring in this phrase, this is how it is right now, we start to feel the mobility of life around us. It's just right now. This is how it is right now. I can also look up at the sunlight and say, this is how it is right now. Start to open, what else is how it is right now? I read the news, this is how it is right now. This is how it is right now. In that way, we start to build capacity or flexibility with this living unfolding. I wanted to acknowledge tonight, it was really, I don't know why I was feeling this so much over the weekend, but feeling the change that's not just, right, we talked about death right at the beginning. Change is happening everywhere, always. That's what part of what we're waking up to as practitioners. I think something that I haven't acknowledged as I sit in this seat is that our sangha is changing all the time, true, from week to week, but in a really big way, right? John's on the mend and has stepped back in many ways. Adam's stepping in, Lauren's stepping in. I get to be this like baby sangha teacher sitting here. Every time I teach, there's new faces, right? This center exists off of generosity, so unstable, so beautiful. And there's this, right? So we can even, sometimes we're not even aware of things changing, but we might be having reactions to it, feelings towards it. I have like such a deep bow to the Sangha members that I know have been here for like probably decades, some of you, or years, and seeing this undergo and new people in this seat, right? So feeling these, it's again like these concentric circles of what's changing and how am I in intimacy with this? How do I feel it? What's it like? What is it like to maintain this closeness with the unfolding? The Dhamma here. The Dhamma here in our center. The unfolding here. I have an intention tonight, and I better slow down so that I can hold this intention. I've realized that, so like a couple months ago, Adam invited me to be on the teaching council here, which feels like so profoundly special to be a teacher for our Sangha. And I feel this hunger to know more about the percolations, the questions, the reflections that you as the Sangha are having these days. And often on Monday nights, we have like, it's like 5 or 7 minutes for a couple people maybe to ask a question. But I really felt this longing tonight, especially like in honor of this living unfolding, this living Dharma, to have a little more space to hear from you, Sangha, about what is percolating for you, what is alive. These Dharma talks, sometimes they seem so like teacher Sangha, but to give a Dharma talk the way that I view it and the way that I've learned it is to talk with the Dharma, talk with the unfolding. And I think because of that, I usually love question and reflection moments because it feels so vital, so alive, rather than like, okay, I planned this thing I'm going to talk to you about. So I think let's transition into that, to have a little bit of time to see if folks want to just acknowledge something about your practice within the Sangha, so it can just be like a comment, or if there's a question that you're having, an insight that you're having. I so want to know you all more. So Jen is going to come around with the mic in the room, and so if you have anything, you can raise your hand. And if you're on Zoom, you can raise your Zoom hand, and I'll call on you.
This is Jen from the Meditation Hall. I would like to say thank you for the reflection of bringing up this is how things are, and especially with your example of in the news, because depending on which news outlet you're looking at, this is how things are, this is how things are not, this is not how things are, this is how things are, this is how things really shouldn't be, this is how things really should be. It's just exhausting to try and follow that. But when you add in that helpful filter that you said, there are many ways of this is how things are, it definitely calms my mind. And it kind of verifies my experience, which is, wow, too much. That's my reaction a lot of times when I'm trying to take in some news. So that feels really stabilizing and very insightful. Good. So thank you very much.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, as you said it, it also reminded me I've been in many conversations related to this of like, but what about all the good news that doesn't get reported? Like there's so much going on. There's so much going on in this body. There's so much going on in this room. There's so, right? And there's a lot of good. Yeah. How do we ground into that? Yeah. Thanks, Jen.
Yeah. Okay. We have a comment or question in the hall.
Yeah.
Start with your name.
Hi, hi, I'm Douglas. And, I think a lot of people come into being interested or intrigued about Buddhism because they're suffering.
Yeah.
And Buddhism kind of promises a cessation of suffering. And often the teachings are about exploring the causes of suffering.
Yeah.
And it's kind of rare to have a teaching that is more about living the Dharma and going beyond the suffering and the causes of suffering to that cessation of suffering. And what's that like? And how can we embody that and embrace that? And we don't have as many words for that as we do for causes of suffering. And so I really appreciate your exploration of the unfolding, impermanent, expansive experience we're all having here. Thank you.
Wow, it's beautiful. Thank you, Douglas. Yeah. Yeah, I saw Constance before, so we'll do Constance first. Yeah.
Okay, we'll pass the mic to Constance, and then Rai will come to you.
Thank you. Thank you, sweetheart. What's coming to me is Santa Tito was talking about this weekend, and I'm embarking on a project for the Work That Reconnects network called Islands of Coherence, based on Igor Pirogin's, who's a chemist, on the fact that when we create small islands of coherence that ripples out into the community, into the world, to create a higher level of order. And I feel that's what we're doing here. That's what the Dharma is doing. And how do we talk about that as a sangha? How do we say, come here to that point where we're connected, where we're feeling alive and being able to sit with the enormous suffering that's going on, and have that be a place where then how do we take that out into our next ring of connection, to the next, to the next, to the next. Because that's how our culture and our society and our community will change. So really finding those ways we take what we do here to the wider audience and bringing that into consciousness. So how do we bring it to our children, our parents, our relatives, our community, our food bank, whatever, so that we become a hub or an island of sanity, as Margaret Wheatley talks about. So just working with that concept, it's not just about coming here and getting your little fix. Right. It's about how does that go really out and start creating a broader community that's stepping into interbeing, interconnection, into compassion.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm like, I vote you for president. That's how I feel right now. It's so beautiful. Yeah, it's like this, right? It's almost something that's coming to mind is almost like this inner coherence, but then it translating to the outer coherence. And I'm thinking also about like even when we were practicing in sangha, that there becomes this like group body of like grounding. I just like this, the group becomes so quiet. And when we hold that or cultivate it and then go out and share it, yeah, it's so magical if we can do it, if we can kind of stay in that coherence or something, or know how to tap it again, or
It's coming in and okay.
yeah,
And then I can go out and I can become a little island of good.
right,
And I have to come back in for the sangha fix and the dharma fix, and then I'm
right,
going out, and then we're building more of a broader community that
right,
is resting in how it is,
right,
which is amazingly
right,
magical
right.
all the time.
Yeah, and I feel like there's this, like these moments that where like we might be in our incoherence, and we kind of wake up in that and then like open the aperture, right, and take in beauty or take in connection. We can kind of move back into that coherence in some way, and like many of you know, I work in therapy. I work as a therapist. So there's this like flexibility that we can create, right? Of moving in and out of that coherence and being able to choose to come back more than stay in incoherence, right? It's kind of an amazing workout. Yeah. Thank you. Looks like we have Rai. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. Please say your name so I know it.
Hi, Gavrila. It's Marie. Hi,
Marie,
everyone.
Marie. Great. Awesome. Thank
I
you.
hope you write that book. And I completely agree. I think that's what this is. To me, this is the practice about finding that freedom in the moment, like just how lively and beautiful when I can stop, or anyone. And I love that Gangaji's teacher basically said to her, stop. Whatever like stop everything, the searching, the trying, the causes and conditions, just stop, and I think it was more of a transference that she experienced, but it was just, to me, that's the freedom in the moment, dropping everything. So I do hope you write that book.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, when you say stop, I almost hear that like workout of renunciation. I mean, we do it in our sitting periods too, right? To put it down. Put down the thought, like let it go and orient to something else. That there is this choice. Yeah. Stop. It's good.
I'm just reminded a bunch of us were working with Aya Santachita this past week, and Constance.
Yeah.
And a couple different times there was this great reference to AI. That's not the great reference. There was a reference to AI, which, as most of us know it, is the acronym for artificial intelligence. But then the great part happened when Aya said she likes to think about AI as standing for ancestral intelligence. And so I feel like part of what you're tapping into and some of these other comments have to do with is living close enough and in direct contact enough that we're sharing coherence, or we're sharing confusion, or we're sharing experience, but that just feels really ancestral to me. And just remembering the value of that, remembering that's a super important modality for us as humans. That's how we're wired, I think, is really important right now. The together piece, the inner being piece seems really good to remember.
And when she was saying AI, was that like it's another AI? Like there's also the ancestral intelligence? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like AI doesn't need to just stand for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then she had this other awesome description of artificial intelligence, and she said it is the broken paradigm of today on steroids, which I personally found very alarming,
Oh.
but clarifying. So, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, talk about change, right? We're reckoning with that. Had that feeling of like we're in history here. Here we are. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Vanessa.
Great.
Well, I just wanted to express gratitude. Dan and I, my husband, I've been coming to Grass Valley for like 30 years. My father lives here. But I don't really know anyone here because he's a bit of a hermit. Sorry, probably shouldn't say that. I forgot so many people are listening online. But I just want to express appreciation and gratitude, just being in this conversation about the Dharma, and I'm just feeling a sense of coherence right now in this moment, as we step into this new path, because we just literally moved all of our furniture here this morning. So just really appreciating all of you and you as a teacher this evening. So thank you all. It's a wonderful way for us to step into this community, into this locality.
Thank you. Thanks for being willing to bring in your voice too, especially like coming in new. I love hearing your voice. Yeah. Yeah. My dad's a great guy. Okay. Now he knows.
Yes.
Now he knows. Yeah.
Please.
Please. Hi.
Katie?
Katie.
When it was such a simple phrase you said, water body, and you said it right after in your body. So there was this connection of, yeah, it's an ecosystem. It's its own body. It's its own thing. And when my body connects with the water body, I get to be part of that, and it gets to be part of me for a moment. And then when Constance reminded me of the little islands of consciousness, coherence, I was like, okay, that's what this means. So that was the physical connection. And now when we are islands or far away, we're actually still connected to this. And then that makes me feel really powerful. So I can continue. And it makes me feel really supportive, so I can give to the people who are doing the good work also. And then ultimately, it makes me feel like I can hold space for the people who aren't quite ready to do the things they need to do. Yeah. So thank you for all these connections.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. Kind of reminds me of, for those who have seen Avatar, you know that moment where they like plug their tails in the trees or whatever is happening there? That's what that I'm like, right, we just plug our tails into the trees or the water bodies. Yeah, thank you for saying that. Huh? Earth bodies, right.
Lake bodies.
Right. And that we could do that from anywhere. You just need an extension cord maybe or not. Yeah. Right. Any last? Probably have time for one more if anyone's itching. Yeah, Mira, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Gavrila, for this and what everyone has said. It's really resonating. What's coming up is I'm going back to what you said starting out, that we take in so little of consciously of the data that's coming to us, that there's like 10 billion maybe pieces of data that's coming in, but we only get 0.0001 of it. And a practice for me right now, I mean, it is very much about managing my suffering and managing my grief, but what has brought me along, I think one thing is the last couple of months of Gil Fronsdal concentrating only on love every morning, and that we do have words for things other than suffering, And he never runs out of the words, whether it's, whatever kind of love of the four Brahma Viharas or, just the affection that you feel for either self or others. Very simple aspects of love. And that the practice of meditating is a kind of devotion to trying to be closer to that, because that is like the most nourishing part of the unfolding that's coming at us, because there's just so much coming at us that we don't need to, we can't pay attention to, but what's worth paying attention to for me is the practice right now.
Thank you. I feel really inspired by that. I really do. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I asked what was going on out here. I'm going to read this poem one last time, and then we'll dedicate the merit of our practice and close for the night. True perfection seems imperfect, yet it is perfectly itself. True fullness seems empty, yet it is fully present. True straightness seems crooked, true wisdom seems foolish, true art seems artless. The master allows things to happen. She shapes events as they come. She steps out of the way and lets the Tao speak for itself. So as Constance pointed out, we are not practicing just for ourselves. We are interconnected in so many endless ways. We are a relationship, actually. If you want to bring your hands to your heart center, if that feels good for you, you can. Seeing if you can taste, feel, experience any benefit that you've gathered from being here tonight. Feeling that here, feeling that fruit of practice, that fruit of sangha. May all beings everywhere, all sentient beings, seen and unseen, alive, dead, soon to be born, human, non-human, of all sizes. May all beings everywhere be. May they feel loved. May all beings feel loved. May all beings feel able to express love. May all beings be nurtured and nourished and safe and protected. May all beings benefit from ease and liberation. May all of us be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Sending the wishes out. Beyond time, beyond space. Thank you, everybody on Zoom. Thank you, everybody in the room. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah. Feel free to unmute yourself, Zoomers, and say goodbye.
Thank you, Gavrila. Have a good evening.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wonderful. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank
you. Good night.
Good night.